what I will tell you is that every other week at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, an episode from our previous seasons, right now through season one, will debut. And I would say you have a good 50-50 shot that prior to that debuting, which is happening this Friday at noon, I will get online, do an online um, Q&A. If I'm in town, I don't have a previous appointment, I've got time. See, all those things have to be filled out, and a lot of times I don't know in advance. But anyway, I see we have 15 or so folks tuned in. So thank you guys for tuning in. I was just talking about, while I was filling time, the reasons that I don't plan further ahead, and how I know that I should. And I understand if I were advising someone and consulting someone, I would tell them how to do it. I don't do it that way. So apologies. So let's talk about Nicaragua. It's about 11:02. So we'll just start kicking it off. So I posted a video that was called When Travel Goes Wrong, about us getting stuck on our journey through Honduras into Nicaragua. So season one of Raw Travel, understand the show was not on the air yet. It was an idea that was becoming tangible. It was becoming gel. It wasn't quite like when we first shot season one, which began in 2010. The first part of season one, we didn't even know if this thing's going to get on the air or not. I had no idea. However, by the time we're shooting this section, beginning with Mexico City, episode 110 and beyond, we're like, okay, the show's going to be seen this fall. So we're filming stuff that we at least know people are most likely going to see. And what you will notice if you've watched any of the earlier stuff, some like, hello, Dylan, how you doing? Thank you for tuning in. From like episode 1 through 9, you will see some differences, not only in how I look, but also the quality, I think, of the production, the quality of the writing. And episode 110 and beyond matches more what Raw Travel became as we found our voice. And that's the beautiful thing about being independent. You get a chance to find your voice. I did, of course, approach what was called the Travel Channel. I think they're still around, but they only show ghost stories or something. They're a shell of what they used to be. And they were on their downward trajectory at the time that I approached them. And, I think they said something like the show was too earnest for them or whatever. And that was back when you could talk to a human being, or at least correspond with one, and get your stuff looked at. And, they were right. They were right. It was very earnest, especially at the beginning. And, thank God they did not pick it up, because had they, I would have been canceled and would have never owned anything, and all that work would have been down the toilet. So as we're starting to see that Raw Travel is going to actually happen, I'm like, okay, how are we going to do this now? Here's the hard part. So we'd had 8 or 9 episodes in the can, edited, ready to go, but we needed 20, which, to the best of my knowledge, had never been done on television before. 20 episodes of a travel show, at least. Bourdain, Rick Steves, PBS, all those shows you see, Samantha Brown, they don't do 20 a year. That's not a season for them. Usually it's maybe 13. Usually. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, if I've got my facts wrong, but I've done a lot of research and I've worked in TV for a long time. So I knew this was going to be a challenge. How do we do it? Well, it's like eating an elephant, man. One spoonful at a time. And basically, yeah, you just start. You just start doing it, and you don't worry about season 2. You got to get through season 1. So how did we do it? Well, I was living in Los Angeles. I wanted to move back to New York. I felt like would be closer to my family in Tennessee. My parents are getting older, and New York just felt like where I wanted to be. So I was moving back to New York City. So I put all my stuff in storage, met my crew in Mexico City, and our plan was to bus from Mexico all the way through Central America over 8 weeks and get hopefully 8 episodes down in the can. Very tough. And yeah, in English. Our show's in English. Pero yo habla un poquito español, pero es horrible. And my crew spoke Spanish, so that helped a lot. My crew was Renzo Devia and Moses Naranjo at the beginning of the trip. Both were Colombian Americans that I had worked with. I had lived in Colombia. They lived in Bogota. I lived in Medellin. And then when I moved to the U.S., I lived in Los Angeles. And I moved back. No, I went back, and they met me in Mexico City. Then from Mexico City, we flew, I think, to the Yucatan because there were some dangerous areas or it was just practical. And then from the Yucatan, we bust all the way down. So by the time we get to Honduras, we're fried. Moses has taken the hard drives because the hard drives at the time would not hold enough footage to for the whole show, for all our shoots. So Moses took the hard drives back to New York. Pablo, an Ecuadorian American who we had also worked with in a previous show at a previous time, American Latino TV, both Renzo and Moses I'd worked with at my previous project, met us. So Paco takes Moses' place as our second camera person, and we're going to finish up the trip. So when we were in Honduras, I forgot when Paco joined us, but I know it was definitely Honduras, and then we're on the way to Nicaragua. Renzo and I are fried. Paco's pretty fried because busing through Central America at the time, 2013, was tough. I assume it still is. Why is it tough? It's not the most comfortable mode of travel. A lot of it's chicken bus, but that's not really the issue other than if you get a driver like we had from the Yucatan into Belize who kept the temperature like a meat locker. So you're sitting there just freezing because you're not dressed for a winter environment, and the dude would not turn the air conditioning off. We begged him. And he said, screw my passengers. And that is basically one of the lessons I learned when I travel is that, you know, it's great when you have competition in a capitalistic society, because when you don't, you get a driver like this who doesn't care about his customers because that was the only choice. So taking buses a lot of times is only one route, one company sometimes. Honduras did not have a plethora of bus stations. And so as we got, you know, closer to Nicaragua, it became more and more difficult. And we got stranded in a town called Jico Galan, waiting for a bus that, unbeknownst to us, was stuck at the El Salvadorian Honduras border, getting searched for, I guess, drug, narco trafficker material or whatever. Hours we spent waiting on that bus, not knowing when it was coming, with no internet, no ATM, no currency because we had spent all our Honduran currency and there was no ATM. And, you know, we were crossing over into Nicaragua, so we only had US dollars, which you can always usually spend. And then, you know, on the taxi ride to the bus station, our luggage was in the trunk. The driver didn't close the trunk. Paco was worried about somebody stealing our stuff, so he closed the trunk. The driver goes nuts. And when we find out, because the trunk doesn't open, and we had to tear the back seat out, open the trunk, get our stuff out in time for the bus that we thought was coming on time. Anyway, that's how Nicaragua began. The bus finally showed up. Hours later, we're exhausted, just killed a whole shoot day. And by the time we get to Nicaragua, it's like 3 a.m, and our next shoot was like at, I don't know, 7 or 8 a.m. scheduled. So lack of sleep, etc. Those are some of the things that happened. Hello, Zachary. So we got Zachary and Dylan talking. If anybody has any questions, please just type them in. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep rambling about what it was like to shoot in Nicaragua. So let's talk about the obvious. So this was back in 2013, busing our way through Central America. Those of you who follow me closely may know that we did not go to El Salvador. It was quite dangerous at the time, but that was not why we didn't go. So was Honduras. And I had been to Honduras previously, you know. And so essentially the reason we skipped El Salvador is just, you know, planning the route 8 weeks. We just didn't have time. And as you may have seen, I went to El Salvador last summer and I posted a video about it, episode 1201. And it's a, you know, not on TV, but it's my best shot at doing a digital first episode about El Salvador. So Nicaragua, wasn't really on my radar in terms of like um, politics or negativity or anything like that. I knew about the Civil War, the Sandinistas, of course, Oliver North, Ronald Reagan, blah, blah, blah. Of course, The Clash has a great album called the Sandinista, I think. And, so this is my backdrop. But my real main backdrop was I had a friend in Los Angeles who was Nicaraguan, an immigrant from Nicaragua. And his family still lived there. So I had some connections there. I also had a buddy in New York who I think he's Ecuadorian American, who had a cigar company. And he's a very good friend of mine. And in Esteli. So we had that shoot set up, and if I'm remembering correctly, that was the shoot that was set up like at 8 the next morning that we had to get up early for. And so uh, I had some connections there in Nicaragua. I had my buddy Francisco's brother who was down there and was going to show us around, and he did. So we had some connections in Nicaragua. Other than that, I will just say, and then we rented a car and we drove through, so we didn't have to bus through Nicaragua. We rented a car. And we went to Managua. Managua had this really gnarly reputation that I found to be not deserving. I found Managua to be fine. It felt safe to me. I'm sure there are some bad neighborhoods. But generally speaking, Nicaragua in 2013, safe, secure, and no issues, in terms of us being an American or anything like that. We did run into a lot of travelers, not tourists. These are people who travel with a purpose. They're backpacking, they're volunteering, or they may be expats. We met some there who are expats who are living there because it's very inexpensive in Nicaragua. Nicaragua is a very poor country, so they do have a lot of needs. And at the time in 2013 when we filmed, all of this was new to me, but I had heard about Nicaragua and I had the previously mentioned connections. So we get to Managua, we film there, but the real beauty of Nicaragua is getting out. And to places like Granada, not Granada, Spain, obviously, Granada, Nicaragua is a beautiful historical city. On a lake, there's a lot of volcanic lakes. There's a lot of active volcanoes in Nicaragua. And that's where you get into some of the beauty. We did not, in this episode, or in any of the episodes that I produced in Nicaragua, go to the beach, but there is some good surfing there. But basically, Nicaragua in general, the volcanoes to me and the lakes are really the draw for outdoor adventurers. Those of you who will see, if you haven't seen the show yet, you'll see what we call volcano boarding. And it's basically climbing up to the top of a volcano and then boarding on your butt on a board all the way down, which I did. You have to wear a special suit because the volcanic rock is sharp. It'll definitely scratch you up, but a lot of fun. And I think I did it twice. And, the hardest part is, of course, climbing. The fun part is coming down, which doesn't take that long. And we filmed it for you guys, so you can see that. We were with an organization called Sonati. I checked; they're still around. Sonati we did a profile on them in the episode, what you will see. So Sonati is still around, and they're an NGO and doing some good work there. They have a couple of hostels. One of them is León, which is also a beautiful city there. And then I think right outside wherever the volcano was, I can't recall that name. But if you stay at their hostels, all the money goes to help their organization. And the tour that we took when we did the volcano boarding, that money went and also helped the organization. So that's always a great way, I think, when you're going to Nicaragua to do stuff like that. So this was filmed, as I said, in 2013. I think it was season 6 or 7, which would be 2017 or 18 or thereabouts. I was invited by the Nicaraguan Tourism Board to return to film. And I'm not sure if I guess they saw or didn't know. They just heard about the show and they didn't know I'd already been. And I said, yeah, at that point, I was like, it's always good to go back because you get a different perspective. And I had a completely different experience than I did in season one. Season one will always be my favorite experience, though, because there you're faced with the unknown. You're just traveling, you don't know what to expect, and there's something magical about your first time. It just is, no matter where you go. Sometimes you have a better time the second or third time. Colombia is like that. I went back I've been many times, and the first time I was like clueless, had no idea what I was doing. I stayed downtown. I didn't even know the best parts of Medellin, for example, existed, where I go to now. But in Nicaragua, there was something really special about that first trip, exhausted as we were. Another thing that happened in 2013 that I didn't have to worry about when I went back, because I had minders, people with us, fixers, if you will, more than minders, fixers, people who had, helped us carve out our agenda the second time I returned. But the first time, we're responsible for all of that. And the frustration, or one of the things that was really tough, is always getting lost. So you get directions. As I said, I speak a little Spanish, but my crew, completely fluent in Spanish, we still had a tough time getting directions from people because there wasn't a lot of street signs in the cities. For example, Granada, just, you're lost. And so think about this, 2013, of course, you have cell phones, but they don't work because you don't have maybe an international calling plan or whatever. I get separated from my crew. I'm driving the car. They're out doing something. I forgot, asking for directions probably. And I have to drive around the block. Well, I get lost, and next thing I know, I can't find them. And Granada's not that big. I would have eventually found them, but I would say for 15, 20 minutes, not panic, but definitely like, here's another when travel goes wrong moment, because I've lost my crew. They've lost me. We can't find each other. And eventually, as I said, thank goodness, Granada's not that big. I found them, near the main square. And, my suggestion would be, if you're ever in that situation, have a point of, we're going to meet here if we get separated. Probably basic stuff that we should have done. So those are things that I will always remember. And then getting directions from people, like, it's like being out in the country. Again, 2013 could have changed, but they're like, take a left at the cow and then a right at the hill. Things that they know about, but you as a traveler don't know about. So that's an interesting thing about filming in Nicaragua. The other interesting thing is that while we were driving along, which I love when you're able to grab a car, and it's very safe to drive in Nicaragua. The most dangerous thing is the fact that not other drivers, but people in horse and buggy, carts, it's like that, people on horses, right? It's a poor country. Pigs in the road, chickens in the road, animals in the road, people on animals in the road. Those are the most dangerous parts of driving in Nicaragua. But otherwise, once you're out in the country, it's pretty broad and open, so you just got to be alert for that. And we were driving, and we just saw these people in these beautiful, elaborate costumes. You will see them on the still artwork of the video that's going to play at noon when this show premieres. And that was one of the festivals that they had. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous. And we just stumbled upon that parade. And we're like, this is too gorgeous. This is such great television. We have to film this. So we followed them down the road, or this couple of people, and they kind of told us what was happening. And there was this huge mass of people, all in costumes, colorful. And then there's only one road in and out of that little town. We got stuck behind the parade. It took, I think, about 3 hours to get back to the main road, which was only like a 15-minute drive away. But because we're stuck behind the parade, normally as a traveler, man, just go with the flow. Just do it. That was one of the most intense visual experiences in my life. We're in the parade in our little rental car. It was fantastic. As a film crew on a schedule, it's another thing that sets you behind. And that's why sometimes filming travel takes the joy out of travel. But, we did try to just let loose because it was out of our control, and just have a good time and worry about catching up later. Zachary. Oh, manual cars. As far as I recall, I think I did have a manual transmission car, which I kind of like. I think it's kind of cool. But yeah, there's a video of me somewhere in the When Travel Goes Wrong playlist of renting a car in Honduras the previous shoot to Nicaragua, and it was Roatan, and it was a wreck. It had so many bumps and scratches, and what was funny is, I mean, there's just so many funny things about renting this car, which is always an adventure, even in the United States, but it's most certainly an adventure in Central America. And it was supposedly budget rent a car, and we took a boat to Roatan. We get to the rental car office, and it's literally a shack with a paper sign with the logo, not even in color, black and white, budget rental car, tacked onto the side of the shack. They bring the car. It's got so many dents and scratches on it. I'm like supposed to sign something showing, and I just scratched the whole car. I'm like, this whole thing is all beat up. Whatever. I don't care. It's transportation, right? We get in the car. The empty gas gauge is here. The needle is this side of empty. The dude says, oh, don't worry about it. There's a gas station right up the road. I'm like, bro, are we going to even make it there? And it was a manual transmission. Turns out in Roatan, you don't even need a car. Everything's all right there. We just walked. We never even drove. When we returned the car, I was expecting the worst just because I knew something was off. Again, this is Honduras, not in Nicaragua, guys. Roatan. And anyway, the guy was like, I was surprised. I get my deposit back. Everything's cool. He takes us back in the car to the boat, to the ferry to go back to the mainland from Roatan. And I'm in the bathroom waiting on the ferry. And my crew comes in and says, Rob, the budget rent-a-car guy's here. And it's a different guy. And I'm like, what? So in the meantime, the guys who we had interacted with didn't have a uniform. They just had a T-shirt on. Nothing about any of this felt like official budget rent-a-car stuff. Or I think it was dollar rent-a-car. Sorry, budget. It's dollar rent-a-car. I believe. I think it's dollar rent-a-car. And the guy gets there, and now he's got a dollar rent-a-car shirt on. He looks very official. Never seen this guy. He's like, you ruined the transmission. You can't get on the boat. You got to pay us money. I'm like, what? So he tried to tell us we had ruined the manual transmission, that I didn't know how to drive a stick, and the clutch was burnt out or something like that. I was like, no. A, I grew up on a farm. I learned to drive on a manual transmission. Number 2, this is a scam. Number 3, Renzo, Moses, get the cameras out. Let's film this. The guy freaks out, calls his boss. His boss is on the phone, and I'm talking to him, I think visually. No, I'm just talking to him audio. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And I was so thankful because, again, we were not on the air when we were filming in Central America. Not yet. We wouldn't be on the air until like 2 or 3 months. Because this is late July. We would hit the air in October of 2013, meaning be broadcast on TV. But the website was up and had just kind of been finished. And I was so thankful because the guy's like, why do you have cameras out? What are you doing? You ruined the transmission. He was being very adamant. I owed him $600 for a ruined transmission, which I had hardly driven the car. And I said, no, man, I'm with Raw Travel. Let's talk about this because I'm not paying you, but I will film this. This is a fantastic segment for the TV show. And the guy looked up online, and I could tell when he looked it up because he's like, you ruined the transmission, but it's okay. We don't want any problems, blah, blah, blah. So basically, because we had TV cameras and he could look up and see we were a TV show, we didn't owe the money. I got back to the States, of course, and I called. I think it was, again, Dollar Rent-A-Car. Hope I'm not getting this wrong. It's online. I think it's called Dollar Rent-A-Scam, so it's Dollar Rent-A-Car. And, they were like, nothing we could do. Is just someone who bought the rights to our name, and that's it. And I'm like, there's nothing you can do. They're ripping off tourists. So that's my story in Honduras about getting ripped off with Dollar Rent-A-Car. Now, when I do the Q&A for Honduras, I can no longer tell this story because I've already told it. For Nicaragua, getting back to that, Zachary, thank you for that question. But yes, it was a manual transmission, but as far as I know, I had no issues with people trying to rip us off in Nicaragua. It felt safe. Honduras, at the time, this again, 2013, I don't think I've been back since, and I had been there before. Honduras, Southern Honduras in particular, has some issues, and it's a lot of the narco, the narco trafficking and things like that has moved to Honduras. And so sadly for those folks, it's become a dangerous area. And, you see that in the honesty and the integrity of the companies and the people that you're dealing with sometimes. And, it's just, it infects everything about a country. And so there are certain countries that you can tell you're not going to have any problems. And then there are certain countries that you go to and you're like, yeah, I'm going to have issues here. Hey, what's up, Dublin, Ireland? Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, so I meant to do a shout out for these guys. First of all, I can't wait to get to Ireland. I've never been there, if you can believe it. Planning hard, man, trying to get there. I'm of Irish descent, Irish, Scottish, British descent. I did the DNA test. Kind of disappointing, got to tell you, because I want a little flavor in there, because everybody where I'm from is Irish, Scottish, British, but I'm like, just like everybody else. But love Irish culture. Can't wait to experience it. But the Immigrant is a great bar in the East Village. It's a wine bar, kind of classy, but kind of East Villagey. So I really love it. I highly recommend it. Super friendly folks sitting there, just having an experience. I don't know what Boo. What are you doing, bro? Get out of here, Boo. Boo's trying to be. He needs attention. Boo needs attention. Hey, but anyway, so the Immigrants are basically, it's a great bar in the East Village. You got to check it out. We'll just ignore Boo. I'm sure there's some way to moderate him. But anyway, I can't wait to get to Ireland and see you guys and experience, because everybody that I talk to about Ireland tells me how friendly it is. As far as Nicaragua, back to that a little bit. Let me talk about Nicaragua. Let me think, what else, man? Do you guys have questions about it? Would I go back? That's something I want to talk about. Would I go back? It's a good question. I did go back. So basically that kind of speaks to it. Now, when I went back, I was a guest of Nicaraguan tourism, and they treated me very, very well. But I've been very disappointed since then, because I've seen that there are times that basically the current government has clamped down on freedom. And this is not something unusual. We're seeing this all across the country. I just got back from Argentina, where we're not seeing that clamp down on freedom, but we are seeing a president who is, taking some seriously shocking measures that I'm concerned about, right? So I'm really concerned about, what's happening in Nicaragua. That said, I can only speak to the experiences that I have and offer some insight there. And the experiences I had was essentially that we had a wonderful experience. It was wonderful. And, if you go as a traveler, here's my advice. Do your homework. Always. It's always been my advice. And so what does that mean? That means use credible sources. Of course, there's a lot of disinformation and hype and clickbait and all that stuff. And that's why I want to do like live videos and things like that to try to help navigate. So I don't know how much my trip in 2013, which you'll see at noon, will help you guys, but it'll at least give you an idea of what to expect. And the one thing that I notice is that governments come and go, they change. The reality is that people are good people wherever you go. There's good people everywhere. And there's bad people everywhere. And so, when there is something like I just discussed, like in Southern Honduras going on, it's just tragic to see. So when people are escaping that situation, good people, my heart always goes out to them, especially when I'm in their country and they're so nice to me. And, a lot of times when we were filming, obviously there were two other camera guys with me on this trip. As I began filming the episodes of Raw Travel More, I began doing a lot of solo filming, partly because of the pandemic, just trying to cut the liability issues or the chances of someone getting sick. And it was solo travel just made sense. But also, even before the pandemic, I started doing a lot of solo stuff. And one of the reasons I did that is because if you're solo traveling, you have a very unique and different experience than if you're traveling with another person or a group of folks. The bigger the group, the less authentic the trip seems to become to me. Doesn't mean you won't have one, but it's going to be very different. And this hit home to me in season 2. I did a lot of solo travel before I started doing raw travel. And that's the other thing. I've never gone to Nicaragua solo, which I would like to do. I think it's a good solo place to go to. And I would like to compare that experience, because when I'm filming, I have very positive experiences. There are cameras around. There are people around. Maybe even if the cameras aren't out and we're not filming, I'm still got people. And the vulnerabilities that you have as a traveler are different. They're not the same. They're not the same. And essentially, if you're not having, some vulnerability moments, you won't really be able to analyze the character of the people of the country that you're in. Because the thing that I found is that, wherever I go, not speaking the language, being vulnerable, somebody is always there to help, man. Can't wait to help. Can't wait to help. And I found that everywhere, and it's been the case. So in season 2, we were in Vietnam. I was filming my crew, and I gave him a day off because we've been filming nonstop. And it was Paco, who was on this episode, who's filming this episode, and Erica, a good friend of mine who was with us. So, we had female and male. We had a co-ed crew, so she would often stay separately from us, obviously, and Paco and I would room together to save money. Season 2. Season 2? Yeah. We're definitely trying to save money in season 2. And, we're not sponsored by anybody. So we're in Vietnam. I don't even think we're supposed to be there filming, but nobody's giving us a problem. And they're with me the whole time, and we're just having a blast, loving Vietnam. It's awesome. And then I give them the day off, and I go out on my own. Suddenly, I think this was, I can't remember. I think this is Saigon. I can't remember exactly. But basically, it was the more Americanized part of Vietnam and South Vietnam, right? So I think it was Saigon. So anyway, I'm walking around by myself, and I'm just accosted by people trying to sell me stuff. That didn't happen when I had my crew. And when I had my crew, people were. So that's a case of being a solo traveler and being like, man, this sucks. I don't like this as much. I wanted to be with my crew. Most of the time, when I go out and I'm solo, I'm having the opposite experience. People are more friendly. They feel more able to come up to you, which is, of course, what happened in Vietnam, So, all right, guys. If you don't have any legit questions, looks like we don't. We got a lot of, I think, what I consider Russian trolls on here. Probably found me. And, it could be Russian or not, but they're trolls. But they like to get in and do stuff like this. This is what they do. So I think it's interesting for you to watch. Hopefully, I'm stuck enough to the script that you can get something out of this. At noon, I think half the messages are being held for review because these are trolls. These are people in a troll farm. Hey, what's up, Stuart? Any legit questions? All right, man. Again, I'm going to shout out the Immigrant. It's a wine bar, Lower East, not the Lower East Side, but the East Village. I think it's around 6th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue. So check it out. The Immigrant is a wine bar. I went in there, had some wine, just told the guy I liked the shirt, and he gave me one. How good is that? How good is that? All right, guys. Excellent. Thanks a lot. So at noon, Nicaragua, the very first trip is coming up, and soon we will try to, show the other Nicaragua episodes so you can see all of those. In the meantime, if you guys end up going to Nicaragua, please do give me an email. Let me know what you thought about it, what it was like, because I haven't been in so long, and I would like to know, how it's changed. All right, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you like the episode. It's premiering coming up at noon, New York City time. Take care, guys.